Today, my guest is April Tischler, and April is the installation coordinator for the Navy Gold Star program. And the Navy Gold Star program, for those who don't know, is to help those who have lost a loved one in the military while they were on duty, active duty. So April is also a grief and recovery specialist, so just a wealth of knowledge, lovely, delightful young woman. So pleased, so excited. April, thank you for being on my show today and talking about the important work that you do. And this particular age and time, we have lost so many loved ones with military. And tell me about your program. Why don't we just say, let's just go.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you so much for inviting me to come and speak on the program. And yeah, so we'll start with the basics, because it's like, okay, well, what is the Navy Gold Star program? It's long-term survivor support for family members whose active duty service member passed away while they were on an active duty status.
Okay. And if they're reserve, what would the case for that be? What do they need to be actively serving on that weekend, or how does that work?
That's a great question, and yes, it is delineated. You know, there's definitions that we have to go by.
Of course.
And while exceptions can be made for the Gold Star program, they do have to be designated as active duty. So it can be a reservist who was on a drill weekend, who may have had an accident and passed away, or was called to active duty. But it would be that they passed away while they were in an active duty capacity.
Okay, yeah. Okay. And okay, so then somebody gets identified as passing, and the family gets notified, and they're informed of these services and the availability of all the different programs and things that you run.
Yes, so there's, and that's a lot to say, that there's a formal process to this, and that it's a very respected process. So we do have the CACO officer, Casualty Assistance Calls Officer, will make the official notification with the families. It is an active duty service member who's trained to provide that notification, and they companion the family for about the first month after the service member passes away. And then the Department of Defense, the Navy Gold Star program specifically, I don't want to speak for other branches of service, but for the Navy, about 30 days after active duty service member passes away, that's when the coordinator, the Navy Gold Star program coordinator, is introduced to the family member, and we do a warm handover with the CACO to onboard those additional support structures for long-term support. So there's a lot of milestone management that goes on with this, and while a lot of it is very standardized and there's forms and things like that, it's also very customized to that family member, because not every experience for that family member is the same. They have different needs.
Yeah. Sure. So it's kind of like in your work as a grief counselor or support person, you do assessments on people, and you understand the different ages and stages, and it's a fluid process. So we talked earlier about the 6 stages of grief. What is your opinion on that?
Yeah, so it would be a non-clinical needs assessment that we do for our families, and we touch base with them through many different milestones. So if someone experiences a loss within the first year, we reach out to them on a fairly regular basis, and then we make it a point to also reach out on the Angelversary month. So Angelversary, that's the date of the death that someone experiences.
I've never heard that term before.
Yeah, and that's not specific to the military. So if you experience a loss, then that would be the date of that loss would be the Angelversary for that loss. So it's definitely not exclusive.
No.
Yeah. And then when it comes to the grief, so I do help. I refer our families to grief counselors. I also refer them to financial counselors, because a lot of times this financially impacts them as well. And there's things that they now have to navigate or manage that they may not have had to do so prior.
Well, and it's just the kind of thing too. One of my friends got married when she was really young. She was 18 years old, I believe. Her husband served in the military, and so they were married for 50 some years kind of thing, and she'd never changed a light bulb before. And, you might just say, wow, that seems kind of silly, but, it was a big thing. It was kind of a traumatically invoking experience when she went to change that light bulb because she'd never done it before. It's just division of the chores and duties that you have within your house.
Yeah, the empowerment that can come with that. And that's where, grief is a experience for everyone. Mm-hmm. It's not just specific to our Gold Star families.
Okay.
So, I definitely don't want to be tone deaf to that because it is something that everyone experiences. It's just different when it's on the national stage of loss, and then also these additional benefits that would need to be managed. So with that, like with the stages of grief that we talked about, so there's a case management component to this, as
I'm sure.
Yeah. But there's also events that go along with the program, and that helps. It helps the family members have a space to be able to hear the names of their service member being spoken.
Exactly. So that person just isn't lost. I think sometimes people feel like, oh, if you've lost a sibling or a spouse or a child, you don't ever say anything and you don't speak their name again. That person is, of course, in that person's head. But if nobody else ever admits that or acknowledges that, it's like wiping it away completely, and we don't want to do that.
Yeah, and that's where I do feel a responsibility in the events that we do. So, I can walk you through what those dates are. So I know I'll start with the beginning of a calendar year. So April 5th of every year is Gold Star Spouses Day.
Oh.
So it's a day set aside, and it's not a holiday. It's not a banking day or a national day, but it is a day of remembrance because the spouses now move forward in their grief and in their lives without their spouse and what that looks like. So we take that day to honor that. And
before you move on,
sure.
though, I just want to say you ask them to move forward, but not get over it. Because what I've heard sometimes, if somebody says, "Oh, I lost my son," they'll say, "Well, it's time for you to get over it."
Oh, I would gladly like to take some space in here to talk about that before I move on with the rest of the events for the year. It's a big deal when you're working with anyone with grief that they don't feel pressured or on anyone else's timeline to get over things. Moving forward is appropriate because for my program, one of the foundation components is helping to reestablish resiliency. And you can't do that if you feel pressured or have this expectation to move on. And I have worked with Gold Star families that have shared with me stories where they do feel that pressure to move on. And, I stress back to them and hopefully show and mirror for them that when working with the Navy Gold Star program coordinators or with the grief recovery, within that aspect, that there's never an expectation to move forward. We want them to move on. And with that means they move on with their grief, and it can look different from day to day and moment to moment.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that clarification. Yeah. So April 5th is
Gold Star Spouses Day.
Big day, and then what comes after that?
So the month of May, we have Memorial Day at the end of the month, but the month of May is actually Gold Star Awareness Month.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so it is a month-long. We here at Subbase New London, we do proclamation signing. We invite Gold Star families to come and fellowship and be present and share their stories and speak their service members' names at the event. And then throughout the month, we do have other events that go on. So I do feel very privileged that being where we live in Connecticut, we have New York City and Boston,
yes,
within a couple hours and pretty easy to get to. So like this year we have Fleet Week, New York City Fleet Week.
Yeah, exciting.
So our families are invited to come and tour some of the U.S. Navy assets and have private tours and meet with crew members. And again, they get to tell their stories and they get to share the name of their service member that they lost. And
absolutely.
It's a very meaningful connection, and the Navy made a promise to help those family members still feel connected to the Navy, and it's one very small way that they can do so. So yeah, the month of May, while ceremonious and definitely a tone of memorial, and it is a more somber tone. Again, we're not, it's not like a holidays, so to speak. It's just awareness for and throughout that month.
Okay, so you do the 21 gun salute. I've always been.
Oh, yep. So that in our Gold Star families here in this area, they're invited to the USS Constitution in Boston, and they do a Memorial Day 21 gun salute, and it's amazing to me, just in a human experience, to be able to watch our Gold Star families say the name of their service member and then fire a gun during the ceremony, and it allows for that tactile remembrance. Often it's listing them on a memorial, whereas it's more of like taking an action, like a fitness challenge, or like we do see ruck marches and runs for our families. So this is just one more small way to help them feel connected and folded into that.
That feeling of belonging, we know more and more just how that feeling of belonging is so important and might mitigate other issues that person has going on in their life. Now, some of the people who are members of this program, receiving the services, what are some of the issues that you see that might pop up with them?
Well, for minor children, what we're looking for is to help them continue forward. Again, that what that resiliency looks like. So I work with the families to refer them to education resources for post-secondary education, so they can move forward with having the option to go to college or to go to a certification school to earn a trade certificate. And so in the logistical aspect of things, we want them to be able to move forward and have skills to be able to provide for themselves, and they have the identity of being a Gold Star daughter or son, but as they become of age, they have resources and options available to them to be impactful on their life. A lot of my Gold Star families are looking to have meaning, so there are also Gold Star families that will set up some type of foundation or scholarship fund also.
Oh, nice.
And another family, like the service member, loved soccer, so that they were working with, and those are small ways, but they're very meaningful and connecting to the community to be able to give back.
Well, so many times I think people will say, well, I never knew that, perhaps you had this death in your family that was a complete pivot change for that particular person. So it's kind of in a nice, or I don't know what the right description would be, but it's a way for people to know without you having to say, I lost this, and this, like my dad passed away, and this is that kind of thing. So.
Yeah, and I think with grief, people are looking to make it meaningful, and I think that's the turn point for a lot of people as they're going through their grief experiences. So how can they help make a difference or set up a foundation so another parent or spouse or children don't have to experience that knock on the door?
Right. Well, and so why would somebody call the hotline? What are some examples of situations that might evoke that response in a person?
Yeah, so we do have a hotline set up that Gold Star families can call to get more information or get connected with a Gold Star coordinator if they don't currently have.
So it's kind of like a 211 number, but it's specific to the Navy Gold Star program.
Yes, and this can be for all kinds of different things. I've seen it used for when families have run into issues with their like property taxes. If the state or municipality is unsure of their eligibility criteria to receive a tax break for property taxes or vehicle. We help provide the proper documentation for that Gold Star family member, so that way the municipality or state or whatever entity it is can have the verification needed that they are a Gold Star family member.
Well, and I'm just thinking about my friend who didn't know how to change the light bulb. There's all kinds of examples of maybe you don't know, what taxes were paid, or what, I don't know, what company you use for certain programs or services that you have in your house. And, we tend to be, I think, real labor-oriented or task-oriented, as family members. And sometimes maybe the husband did that and the wife didn't know, or vice versa. So real specific examples of that, helping them to kind of navigate through all of that's really important.
Yeah, it is. And we do have, people reach out and say, if you come across a Gold Star family member that has this specific need, please let me know, and I'd be happy to connect them.
Mm-hmm.
So it is meaningful to have that established connection and be able to provide resources and information for those family members who are seeking, hey, I feel really overwhelmed, I have this particular situation. Mm-hmm. Is there a resource for
mm-hmm.
that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because there are lots of resources, but we don't always know where they are, how to access them, when we can access them, right? And maybe even why, right? So getting to all of those opportunities is really important.
Yeah, I do my best to share with the Gold Star families that I serve, because sometimes they don't even know what question to ask.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Not knowing the right question is really important too. But you are using media to your best advantage, is what I understand, because you're on Instagram, you're on Facebook, you're doing this interview today, so that will be posted out there on YouTube. What else?
We do have the Navy Gold Star Facebook page,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where all of the installation coordinators, so there's not just me.
Of course not. Well, it would be too big of a job, my gosh.
Yeah.
Right,
So I do serve the families who live in the New England area, but there are actually 13 other installation coordinators within the United States that have family members within their regional or geographic area.
So you're one of 13. Do you ever get together with a dozen people?
This is the great thing about technology, is that we can virtually meet. So
Mm-hmm.
whether that be for trainings virtually, because we're always being trained in a resource, or to be connected and linked with information, so we can then share that and be empowering for our survivors. The Navy Gold Star Facebook page, that is the page for everyone. And then I do have an Instagram page specific for our areas, and then we also have private groups that our families can be a part of. So I have a private Facebook group, and if a Gold Star family member is interested, they just email me and I can send them the link. But that's a way for them to connect and communicate with each other.
Nice.
Sure, I share information, but it's important for them to be able to share their story and compare stories with other Gold Star family members, because again, they can companion along with a Gold Star family member and learn to ask a question that they may not have even thought to ask.
So they can meet together on, do you do Zoom calls where people from this area might be able to meet and discuss what it's like in the month of May, or do you have those kinds of meetings?
Yes, we did a rock painting together.
Oh, nice.
So we did Remembrance rocks.
Nice.
And yeah, it was really really meaningful to be able to meet together.
Nice.
And listen
I like
to the
that.
Gold Star families.
Yeah. Well, and again, I don't know if they put the name on the rock, but again, it's putting memorializing in a small way, and then putting it in your garden, or putting it, if they're in the Navy, you might want to throw it in the Sound, right? Or whatever.
Yeah, because I know there's rock enthusiast groups, so they'll paint the rock. So that was more of hey, we can paint these, and then you can go hide them, and other people can find them, and then they see the name of your service member, or something symbolic that reminds them of their service member. One of the Gold Star family members had painted sparrows, and another had painted an anchor. So it was very meaningful to see what their artistic take is on that, because again, you're expressing grief in many different forms.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
Absolutely. And to do it with another person, and to not do it alone, and to understand that you are not isolated and just an individual with this experience, that there's other people who have been there too. So important. Okay. All right. So you have some events coming up. That's really important. Fleet Week and the USS Constitution. And you probably go out doing a lot of public speaking, I would guess, as part of the work that you do, just to increase awareness.
A very small component of the responsibilities that I'm trusted with is public outreach, and that is to help educate the public. So when my schedule allows, because most of it is helping our families, but when my schedule allows, I do go out into the community, and I'll speak and meet with community members. And it's nice to be able to make that connection, so that way the platform for the families is told in advance, and then people in the community are made aware and are plugged into appropriate ways that they can help.
Now, how do you survive? I mean, this is heavy, intense work on your part, being a grief and recovery counselor, and you need to fill that bucket for yourself as well. So,
yeah, self-care is important, and self-care doesn't look like bubble baths or pedicures. Self-care.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it does not.
I was hoping you'd say that. Like,
I know. Self-care looks a lot like healthy boundaries and turning off my phone during non-working hours and making sure that I do take my time off as appropriate, and a lot of that is like, I love being out in nature, so we do a lot of hikes and walking and spending time together as a family. And you see, I do feel as though I see things a little bit differently, or have a little bit different of a perspective, because I do work with people who are surviving and learning to thrive through their grief on the daily. So you have to have a positive mindset, but you have to fill that positive mindset
with your own positive experiences. And to me, there's nothing like nature. And you have two beautiful dogs that you can take out into the woods and enjoy all of the beautiful scenery in this part of the country. So.
Especially right now, because it's heating up. Like, it's nice. But even in the winter, it's nice to just be able to get out and take disconnect and take a break.
And I think people need to be reminded of that being on your computer, being on your iPhone or Android, whatever you have, constantly plugged into technology doesn't really help your brain to kind of go through the cycle and the process that you need to.
Yeah, our phone, I shut my phone off every day on purpose, like to reset it. Well, my brain also needs a reset, so it is important. And, the pillars, right? Getting a good sleep. I have a bedtime and a rise time. So sleep hygiene is important. Nutrition is important, not skipping meals, because, I can't skip lunch and then answer a phone call asking questions. If someone is emotional, I don't want to respond to them because I'm hangry.
Right. Well, I remember hungry, angry, lonely, tired. If you have any of those four emotions, then, and the people that you're working with and advocating for are probably one of those four things a lot of the time. So it is important to step back and so the sleep hygiene, nutrition, and exercise, and as well as like truly unplugging and taking a break. Wow. Okay. Well, such important work that you're doing. So, and you did mention that grief can be more than just loss of a person. There's lots of different components to what grief is.
There are. So grief isn't just the loss from death of a family member. So, grief, as humans, we can experience grief, and that can be from, traumatic changes in our life. So that can be the loss of a job, or it can be loss of pets, or it can be the mourning the loss of something that you've worked towards and not been able to accomplish. So that could be like a person trying to get pregnant and unable to do so. Or then you have medical complications, or things that change your life, and you can grieve what your life previously looked like. And that's where that resiliency component is important, to be able to move forward regardless of what that looks like. Because with our Gold Star families, so they experience the loss of their service member, they may also experience having to move, loss of a job, having to find a new job, having to find a new home, a new community. And they may also be going through different ages and stages and changes with their family members and what that looks like. So grief can be a very compounding thing for all individuals as well as our Gold Star families, because life doesn't just stop because someone passed away. And what does that look like for them going forward with those resiliency tools to help address that?
Oh, that's really important. And I imagine that you have something special for people who have lost a loved one from suicide, by them taking their own life. And that probably complicates things further because there's a social stigma for that. But then we all know that it happens, and that can be very devastating. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, the Navy Gold Star program is inclusive of service members who pass away. So that is regardless of how they did die. So it doesn't matter if it was a training accident or if they were killed in combat or suicide or an illness or even an accident. If they were on active duty and they passed away, regardless of how that happened, the family members are considered Gold Star family members.
Nice.
There are two different pins. The Gold Star lapel pin is given to family members whose service members were killed in action, whereas the next of kin lapel button, that is given to Gold Star family members regardless of the manner of death. So, and suicide is included into that. So we don't discriminate just because the service member committed suicide or had a vehicle accident.
Sure. And if we see that lapel pin on somebody, they're wearing it, what would be a suggested statement for us to make if we see that?
Noticing the family member and asking them, hi, I noticed that you have that pin. Can you tell me why you have that? Or, oh, what does that mean? Most Gold Star family members are not going to be offended if a person doesn't know. And it gives them an opportunity to explain and speak, tell the story of their service member that died.
Beautiful.
But also share their name.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I like that. And on that, I think we'll end unless there's something else that you would like to add, because I think you just did a beautiful job explaining your work, and it takes a special heart and head to go and do this kind of work. So thank you for that. You're an employee of the Department of Defense and doing wonderful work in our area, and I really appreciate you being here today sharing your work.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.